Excellent. Yep.
Looks like Jeff is here.
Yeah, Jeff just made it.
Yeah.
So
But might not know the trick about holding down Control to speak.
Jeff, I think your microphone is actually turned off. So if you click on the microphone at the bottom left-hand side, if you can, by the way, if you can hear us, Jeff, can you click on, press the letter Y? Okay, maybe he stepped away. He's currently idle. Hold on a second. Let me send him a message. So I'm going to right-click on his name and do private text.
So he's on an old PC. He's writing.
Excellent.
It's so old, there's no mic or sound card.
Oh. All right. Well, then go to. Oh, well, if there's no sound card, he can't hear us either. Then, right?
Need to buy a Sound Blaster card.
Probably.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to help much. If you can't hear, I suppose we could. If you guys wanted to, we could open a. We could shut down. We could shut down sound on Terf and then use Discord, your Discord channel instead. Do you want to do that?
Not sure.
No. Okay.
Well, no, let's just. I mean, he can
we
still
can
see, and he can watch the recording later. So
okay,
I would
that's
say
good.
let's just continue.
All right, so I'm just writing it back real quick. Let him know. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. So a couple of things real quick just to go over it again. We mentioned it earlier, but let's do it again. You can move around using your arrow keys. You can also use more than one key at a time. So if you go straight and left or straight and right or back and stuff like that, you can move around like that. The WASD keys also work. If you're used to that, you can use the W key to go forward and the S key to go backwards. It's laid out just like the arrows, and A and D turn you. And then what's nice is we add Q and E to that, which gives you side-to-side motion, which is pretty useful. For making fine movements, you can also add some controls to that. You can use the arrow keys or the letter keys with the Alt key to go slower. And you can also run really fast by hitting the Shift key down, and that'll make you run. So those are the basics there. Also, notice in the people list on the right-hand side, you can see who's talking. You can see whose video is turned on because they have that blue box around their name there. The little sound icon, you can see how much who's talking and how loud. There's also the health meter that's there. That health meter is actually pretty useful. It just lets you know how good your connection is, and if someone's having trouble with their connection, then it'll get smaller and red and it'll turn into an exclamation point if somebody gets reconnected or disconnected. Terf will try really hard to reconnect you if you get disconnected. So if you unplug your network card and then plug it back in, it should find a way back to where you're supposed to go in order to reconnect you again. So that's pretty useful. A couple of the other things on the people list. One is the line that's there means you're on push to talk mode. Push to talk is pretty useful for people who don't have headsets or if there's echo. Most of the time, when we have people even without headsets, if the echo cancellation is good and the network connection is good, then we do a pretty good job of echo cancellation, but not as good as some platforms. So that's why we kind of recommend using the headset. But your mileage may vary. Looks like Zach is here. So Zach, can you hold down the control key and see if you can say something? Okay, give him a minute to start. Yes, we can. Excellent. Okay, we were just going around. We're going over how to move. So you can use your arrow keys to move. You can use WASD to move around too. They're like your arrow keys, or you can use your mouse also. Your right click on the mouse will move you around also. So you can try all of those things. Okay, and so back to the people list. Most of the people have color too, and the color is pretty useful. One of the things that this platform does that's actually really useful is that you have a pointer. And so you'll notice that when I'm using my pointer, it matches the color of the people list too. And so that's one way to know that somebody is talking about something. You can point to something and show it to them. And we actually found that is a really key ingredient of what we do. We had a customer who's a medical manufacturer, and so the designers are all in the United States, and the manufacturers are all in China. And so one of the things they do is they put turf on a cart, and then they have an external webcam that they point forward. And then they show it to people, like, so, you have this part that they're designing or this manufacturing equipment, and then the person on the floor can actually use the pointer to point out the thing that they're talking about in real life, and the designers can go back and forth, and they say it's a huge benefit of having this pointer, because now I can look at things like very detailed graphs, or schematics or whatever, and point out exactly what I'm looking for, and that is actually very, very useful. So having that is pretty good. You can also do things like private text. So if you right-click on somebody's name, you can private text them. These are tools. These are things that we can actually turn off. Another thing you can do is you can right-click on somebody's name and go with them. So if you were to right-click my name and do go with, then I can walk you around and show you different things like the fish tank. So nobody's going with me. Okay, somebody try. There we go. Hey, Shiki. So here's our fish tank, right? Anyway, so and basically to get away from the go with, you can just drive away. So if you walk away, then you'll just be on your own again. You can also go to somebody using the people list. So if you double click on somebody's name, it'll take you to them. And this works even if they're in a different room. So if you just right click and do go to, or if you double click on their name, then it'll actually set you in front of them. And the way we have it designed is that if you're standing in front of a document and you do go with, instead of putting you in front, it'll put you side to side, things like that. Another really good, oh look, everybody's following me now, very good. Another really good thing is the buttons on top. So basically you've got these arrow keys on top of documents. So if you ever see one of those, you can click on that and it will zoom you in. So there we go, we all zoomed in. Okay, to something, and that's pretty useful. And then we have landmarks too. So if you notice the landmarks on the right-hand side, they have a whole bunch of different places. So if you click on one of those, you can go to one of those, automatically go to one of those landmarks. So that's useful to take you to different places. Over here by where it says topic overview, if you click on that sign above topic overview, then it will zoom you into the tabbed wall. And this is a nice little feature that we have too, which is our tabbed wall. And that's useful because you can have a whole bunch of different types of content. So to bring in any content, basically I just grab it from my computer. So let me grab like an image. So I'm just going to grab the picture and I'm going to drop it into Terf right on the wall. So here's the image. Here we go. And then we do have some applications and stuff, or if you bring in like let's do a document. So I'm going to go to my documents, just a second. And test. And so I'm going to bring in an Excel spreadsheet. So it's just a little test. So here's a spreadsheet. I'm just going to drag it and drop it on the board. Okay, and this is a fully, if you click on the arrow above it, this is a fully interactive spreadsheet, so everybody can click on it and add to it. Let's give it a second to start. There it is. So you can see that now we can all click on it and add stuff to it, which is always fun to watch when you're doing a demo. So anyway, you can add other types of documents also. So we support PDF, we support Word, PowerPoint, and Excel. You can also bring in documents from your computer. So if you wanted to share something, so here, let me do that. I'm going to do File, Share a Window, and then I'm just going to share. I'm going to share my actual Terf screen. So here's my Terf screen, how I'm seeing it. And now if I back away, you can see that it's sharing my screen. There we go. That's kind of fun. All right, let me turn that off. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry, I was just deleting it. Okay, and then I can do things like a web link. So if I wanted to share a browser, I can just do like Google. So here's a nice, shareable browser that we can all use. Fully interactive. Also, there we go. The browser doesn't work for things like video. It doesn't have sound associated to it, but it is useful to have it there for a number of different things. We do have some people who've used it with like Google Docs and things like that, and that does work okay. Okay, and then so back to the tabbed wall. What's really cool about the tabbed wall is that I can add extra tabs, so I can fill this thing up. Let's say we're going to add another tab. I'll do notes like that, and now we have a completely other tab because virtual space is cheap, right? So we can add more space just by putting in another tab. And now you can do things like there's a little sticky note at the bottom right-hand side. So if everybody would like to try and put a sticky note up on the board here, and then once you so down at the right, there you go. Somebody got it. So down at the right-hand side, there's a little yellow sticky note. If you click on that and drag it to the wall, you can put yourself in a sticky note. So here's my hello. There we go. Good job. And then you can resize it from the bottom right-hand corner. There we go. Very nice. And then we have another thing that's pretty useful is topic cards. So if you right-click on the board and you do topic card, so I'll put in what did you have for lunch? Question mark, and apply. Now you can double-click on. You can double-click on the. Or maybe you guys haven't had lunch yet, huh? You can double-click on the topic card there and then add comments to it. And then what's really cool about all of this is that you could actually save the contents into a text file. So if you wanted to export all of this stuff, that's pretty useful. And we had a really interesting meeting not too long ago. It was somebody sent a text message, but I didn't see it. Hold on. Here we go. Oh, sorry, guess not. So anyway, we had an interesting meeting. It was a steering committee meeting for a large company, and what they did was they put in a whole bunch of different things on the topic cards, and they went on tab to tab on the wall, and then they basically had each person read what the situation was. So they sent out people to a bunch of different departments, and then within the departments they collected some sort of issue. So if they found some sort of issue that they had money they could spend on, they brought that issue back to the steering committee. And then so the steering committee basically put all the issue on the topic card, and then they had all the steering committee members put in comments into what the issue was. And then when they were done and they kind of really understood what issue they were talking about, they decided that they would have all of the steering committee members put a sticky note up that said, "This is what I think we should do about this problem." And then when they were done, they basically just grabbed all the sticky notes. So let me put one more in. Let's do this. Okay. And so when they were done with this, figuring it all out, they just went to this and they created a poll. And it basically said, vote for your favorite. There we go. And then I can just call for votes. Ta-da. And then people can just vote. And it was a really efficient way of actually running a meeting because, basically you could communicate what the problem was, you can come up with the different types of solutions and vote and move on. And so that was actually pretty useful for a number of people to do stuff like that. And then when we were done, we had this one group that was talking about, they would send all of their people off-site into a location to do brainstorming. And so with the brainstorming came, all kinds of flip charts and post-it notes and all kinds of information that had to be collected later. And so one of the things we have here is we do save as text. So if I save this board, and then I can just grab that file that it created, basically just saved it as a text document on my computer. And so if I just drag that and drop it onto the board here, here's all the information that we just put on this board. You can see here's the votes, there's the notes and who put them in and when and stuff like that. So that's pretty useful. And then so we had one person that said, if I had this, I could have saved a week's worth of work. But anyway, so that's a pretty useful thing too. These boards are also really great for basically brainstorming. So if you have like a graph and you want to put, what's the easiest to do and the least expensive versus, the hardest to do and stuff like that to try and organize stuff. We've seen people do that to try and identify what was the best types of things to work on. And then they would do that. We can also do, like if I put a text doc on here, we could all do that too. So I can type in a text document. It doesn't matter. So anyway, so that was a pretty useful thing. So to take another quick look about the room itself, the way that this is laid out. So we've got all these tabbed walls. Over in the other area, we have a presentation area. So if you guys want to follow me over here, I can show you that. So come in and click on the chairs down here where I'm pointing or where I'm sitting now. There you go. So click on one of the chairs, and then it'll sit you down, and it'll zoom you in to the presentation area. And then I can drag, here, I'll just drag my own video and put that on there. And now I can do a presentation. So there I am. Hello. So anyway, so that was the presentation area. So let me just take that off again. And then in the back over here, we have these brainstorming areas, and these are all sound attenuated. So, for example, if I were to walk into one of these areas, you won't be able to hear me anymore. So I'll walk And if I walk out, and you can hear me again. So if you wanna come into one of these, there we go. There's Aaron. There's Brian. And what's really cool is I can tell who's following along really well, right, and who's not. All right, so that's a pretty quick tour of everything that's going on in here. You want to come back out of the. There we go. Everybody's back. So now, does anybody have any questions about what we just went over? So mostly it's how to move. And when you're training people, you really need about 15 minutes or so, half an hour maybe. The things that we normally train people on are how to set your sound, how to move around, how to sit down and stand back up out of a chair, and how to do sticky notes. And that's pretty much it. For presenters, we can do a lot more than that. And then we can get even further into how to build the space out so that it works the way you expect it to, and it has all of the right features and stuff. But anyway, so that's a pretty quick demonstration of all the different features. Does anybody have any questions? That's a lot of talking on my part.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. No questions?
Actually, I have one.
Okay, good.
What is this rendering in? What is this render engine?
So it's David's engine that it's rendering in, but it's rendering in OpenGL. But we're in the process of rewriting it. So our next version of this engine, it'll still be David's engine, by the way, but it'll be running under DirectX on Windows and Metal on Mac. But we also are going to be supporting Vulkan drivers too. So we're going to do all three. So all of that's being done now. Any other questions? Yoshiki, did you have a question?
Yeah, is there a way to just create some like geometry shape or something?
Yes. So.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and you mentioned 3D models before too, right? And so one of the really cool things about this environment that I'm sure you all know already is that you can just drop models in, and you don't have to recompile or do anything like that. You can just drop them in. So we support all kinds of different model formats, and so let me just do that real quick. So I'm gonna drop in the International Space Station. So here we go. And what's cool about this that only Croquet can do, as far as I'm concerned, is invent this for everybody all right now, right? And so in just a second, you'll see that it'll transfer it to everybody, and we'll all see it. But then you also do have your objects catalog. So if you go to Tools and Object Catalog, or if you use the little arrow, it's like a little ruler thing next to the sticky note on the right-hand side, you can open your Objects Catalog up. And then there's shapes in there. So if you wanted to build some primitive things, you could do that. But here's the space station there. And so here's a nice little model that nobody has seen before, and we just dropped in. That's pretty cool. That's the International Space Station. I don't know. Hold on a second. Let me tell you who it's from. It's from Andy. No, I don't think it's yours. Yeah. Oh, you must have copied it. Yeah. Huh? Yeah. So as far as model types, we support 3ds Max, so 3ds and ASE. We support VRML, so if you have that. We support Google Earth, so the KMZ files, Collada, which is DAE, and then objects, so the OBJ files, wavefronts. So a lot of different types of models you can just drag and drop into the environment. Did you find the shapes, Yoshiki?
I'm
You found the
a little bit confused with the interface. So let's say I'm selecting the like from garden category of a tree oak, and what do I do? Drag.
You just drag it
Name
from yeah, just drag it out from the thing and drop it on the floor. There you go.
Oh no! Oh, maybe I wasn't dropping it onto the floor or something.
But there you go.
Space station with a tree.
Yep.
The fan. I remember the fan.
Very cool.
Yeah.
I like the fan. The fan is good. If you get close to the fan, you can hear it running. That's very cool.
I don't really hear it, but.
You don't hear it? Oh, you're missing out.
You know if they're still using my Collada importer?
Oh, is it yours? Really?
Well, I contracted with, I think Teleplace at that time to write that. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sure it is. So that's interesting. I didn't know that you had done that. I tried to write a Terf format or Teleplace format back to Collada. In order to do a re-import of all of our spaces into a different rendering engine when we tried to do that. It wasn't able to do that. I wish I had known. I would have hit you up for all kinds of advice. I wish I'd known you had done that.
Well, I've
Don't
probably
need it.
forgotten more than I ever knew.
Yeah, speaking of
cool.
it, so when there was a network jitter, like it tries to catch up and it plays faster. Right?
Yeah,
yeah, I remember implementing that for Croquet.
Oh, did you really? Oh, cool.
Yeah.
So I thought Josh did most of that. So there was a jitter buffer that we have on there, and you can actually see it when you go to Tools and Performance.
Yeah.
If you watch at the bottom, so if you make the window bigger so you can actually see lower down, and the person that's talking, you can actually see how much loss there is and how much jitter and what the delay is. And so we actually